What's up? How you doing?
I am doing better now that I had that shot.
There we go. There we go.
I'm
Lighten the
great.
mood. You know
Yeah,
what I
we
mean?
good. We
Get
good.
the warmth
A little
going. You
loosey
know what I
goosey
mean?
in here.
There you
Yeah.
go. Look, tell the people your name. You
Okay.
know what you do, all that good stuff.
Great. So my name is Ateara Garrison, Esquire, which should give you a hint of what I do.
Right.
But I am a transactional entertainment lawyer. I handle everything related to copyright and trademark transfers, licenses, etc.
Got you. So with you handling all that, how many times you come across artists, producers, whoever, creatives that don't have their things in order from a copyright, trademark standpoint?
All the time,
All the time?
every day.
So I mean,
Every
so
day.
so when a person is coming up with their name or doing their music, like what should they be doing? You know, like what should they be doing?
That is a weighted question, and I'm going to answer it with the typical lawyer answer. It depends,
Okay,
And when we say it depends, it's just because it's more a case by case basis, rather.
right,
So it's like my job is to meet you where you are and get you ready for the next level.
right,
That's my job. So a lot of the times things are missing, like their companies aren't formed yet, their names aren't trademarked yet, their catalog isn't copywritten yet, or
right,
whatever. And so I just meet them where they are, and I get them legally prepared for whatever it is their next venture.
right. What's the importance in like trademarking your name?
Ownership is extremely important. We've seen, as far as like just lately in society, the trend of understanding the importance of ownership.
Right,
So the trademarks and the copyrights are literally saying that, this is what I own. This is my intellectual property. I created it. I own it. And if you want to use it, you got to pay me for it. And you can't really do that without the trademark or a copyright.
got you. So have you seen like a bad situation when a person didn't like trademark, and if so, can you know what I'm saying, tell you?
Absolutely. The best example though, I'm not gonna give
Yeah, you don't have to
I'm not
get a
gonna do
name or
any of
nothing.
my clients, but if you guys Google Bobby Valentino and what happened with him and and his name, because I think there was like another European artist who had his name,
Oh,
and
really?
they had to fight about it or whatever, and that's why he became Bobby V, I think. And it was like a huge thing because nobody trademarked his name at the beginning. So once they were doing a European tour and this other artist found out, he was like, hell no, this
Right.
is my name, and it became a thing. And if they would have trademarked it before, it could have definitely either been prevented or maybe negotiated some kind of ability for them both to keep their names or whatever.
Right.
But that didn't happen. So, yeah, do I see it? Absolutely.
Right. No, that makes sense.
I mean, that's what you call me for, to fix it, either to
Right.
fix it or to prevent it.
Right. So, like the copyright side of things. So, I could say from my personal experience, I know early on I used to deal with copyright.gov or .org, one or two, but
.gov, you're
it's
right.
.gov, all right, copyright.gov with the Library of Congress and stuff. I used to mail in the city and do the whole like shebang. So now, what should producers do now? Because it ain't like, do you still have to go through that process, or is the metadata saving that, or
I'm
is
going
it
to be
like
real with you. A lot of them don't.
right,
Should you? Absolutely. And if there's issues, you have to. So it's like if somebody stole your beat, for example, took credit for your beat, if you want to sue them, you have to have that copyright. Like the copyright doesn't really come into effect unless you have a copyright from the Copyright Office. There are what we call just given rights that you get in something like automatic copyright rights that you get. But
right,
that is what we call, I'm trying to figure out what the wording is for it. I don't remember off the top of my head. But essentially it's it's common law. That's the word. So you have a common law copyright right to anything that you create and fix in a tangible form. But for that copyright right to be federally recognized, you need a copyright. Does that make sense? So if you want to sue in federal court, or if you on the basis of copyright infringement, you have to have a copyright logged with the copyright website in order to pursue that.
So say I make this beat or do this song or whatever like that, and somebody else copyrighted before me, like through the actual copyright.gov. What's the,
How would you fix that? So essentially, you would copyright it yourself.
So you still go back and copyright it?
Because, yeah, they still apply retroactively, and that includes trademarks too. So the date of filing doesn't necessarily have to be the date of use, or the date of creation, rather. That's the better way for me to put it.
Right.
So you can say, like, hey, 3 years ago I created this and it's mine, but you filed the application now, but you created it 3 years ago. If you're telling them, hey, I created it 3 years ago, then it's valid from the file date, but the day that you created it counts. The date of first use.
Well, what if somebody else
So if somebody else does it, it ends up relying on that copyright law, that common law copyright law is who did it first. Who did it first. So if they're nefarious and they copyrighted it, but it wasn't theirs, and that's fraudulent. And then we can argue fraud, because it's like they're nefariously doing this without your knowledge, trying to claim that they created it, but they didn't, you know? And so we can pursue them on that basis. But if it's a situation where it's like an idea you came up with and they came up with it, or they, got it from you, rather, it's whatever date they got it from you is still after the date that you created it.
Gotcha.
So you got to just argue seniority, essentially.
Got you. But people do that with websites all the time.
They do it with all types of stuff. But is it trademarked? Is it copywritten? Do you have it recorded? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that's how you maneuver. Like, so for example, I think that was the best example, was if somebody steals your record, you know. If they steal your record, the label copyrights it. You know what I'm saying? So, but that copyright, they essentially put in the contracts like, oh, we can copyright this in your name, essentially. So we'll say that, we own it, but, you're you contributed to it, right? Let's say that they have the wrong contributor on there, right? When you file your copyright, the person who actually created it, when they file their copyright, they're going to say, I created this, 2 years ago, essentially, which will essentially predate the copyright that and invalidate the copyright that the label or whoever else tried to register, essentially.
Now that makes sense. So what's the importance? Obviously, it's already clearly you can hear the importance, but, just for a question base, what's the importance of a producer getting a lawyer, and when should a producer get a lawyer?
Oh my gosh. I just had this conversation about artists, and honestly, for all creatives, it's the same. Whenever a transaction is about to take place, whether it's contemplated or actually realized, right? So if you guys are starting to get in talks, that's actually the best time to get us involved, because then we can help you strategize towards what you want to ask for, and what to avoid saying, what to say. But at least at minimum, get us involved when you're presented with a contract, essentially, so that we can try to help you protect yourself.
Got you. But how does a upcoming producer find a lawyer like you?
Yeah. So I mean, we be outside. Most of it. Most of the good ones. Most of the good ones be outside. But honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't like everybody coming to me.
For sure.
I'm a solo practitioner. I have my own firm. I don't like to overwhelm myself. I never wanted to be the attorney that is like, oh, I can't get her on the phone, or oh, she never responds to me. Oh, like it's a week has passed and I don't even know what's going on. I've never wanted to be that person. So I only take on what I can manage as a person. And that means that everybody is not for me, and I'm okay with that, you know? 'Cause I don't know if y'all know, and y'all should know, but all attorneys, are their relationship with you is terminable at will, which means that you can decide whenever that you don't want me to represent you anymore. But also, that works both ways. So I can fire you as a client too. You know what I mean? And I tell people all the time, my no's are always more important to me than my yeses, because my no's are what determine how much time and availability I have for my yeses, you know? So when you approach, or if you're trying to approach an attorney, try your best to first build a relationship with them in some capacity, just like hey, I heard that you like this, or hey, I heard that you do this, or hey, do you want to be affiliated with this? Like, for example, with you, like, we haven't worked together, but you've seen my work, you know what I'm saying? And vice versa. And you were like, hey, come be on this podcast for me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For me, that's like courting, it's like, oh, okay, like, let me see how you work. Let me see what you talk about, let me see your answers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But let me have more experience with you so I could determine whether this is a good fit. Cause just like in our romantic relationships, you know what I'm saying? Or even our friendships, compatibility is important. So it's like,
especially in business stuff.
Right, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's the same in business.
Right.
As much as they try to say, like, keep everything separate, it's like, it's separate, but it's also similar in the way that you have to approach how you handle certain things, you know? Because at the end of the day, we're all people. And what do they say all the time? This is a relationship business.
Right.
And they don't say that for no reason.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So it's like, you got to base your relationship with that person on history, prior experience with that person. That's the only way to create a relationship, or to base something off of, rather, to create a what is that called? A foundation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's real. So as a lawyer, I mean, obviously, I guess the perception is that you're working behind a desk or you're in the courtroom all the time. Mm-hmm. But how important, even like for upcoming lawyers, to go out and network? Because I see you all the time at like Grammy weekends, BET weekends, and just different events and stuff like that. How important is it for upcoming lawyers to do the same?
It is critical. That's how important. It's critical.
It's critical.
Like, your career aspirations will die if you do not network, period.
Right.
That's just what it is.
Right. Is that like a way of like just going about and finding new clients, or is it like just like mainly like about like going to finding coworkers, or
I'll give you the tea. So the way that I did it, because when I first started out, I had almost no ties to the music industry. People. The thing about the music industry is that everybody can say that they're doing it or done it just by picking up an instrument or being in the studio one day. You know what I mean? So it's really hard. Discernment is key. Let me start there. I had no ties, so I found a way to make them. And the way that I approached it, because I felt like I really had no idea what I created my own path.
Right.
How it started was I started volunteering for festivals. I volunteered my time. I was like, I just need to be in the room. I don't care if it's my pinky toe. I need to crack that door. So I would go to the different websites, South by Southwest, Afropunk, what else did I do? I did A3C specifically because we're in Atlanta, you know. And I would go on their websites, and they always have a career section of their websites. Under the career section, or a volunteer section.
Right.
Under the career section, you'll find the volunteer section, or sometimes the volunteer section is separate. But you go there, you sign up to be a volunteer. And I would tell them, I'm a law student. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I want to volunteer. And almost every time that I've applied, I got picked. I don't know if it's because I said I was a law student, so they were like, oh, she's going to pay attention to detail. Or, who knows, or she's going to follow the rules. Who knows? But I almost always got picked. And doing that, sets me apart. So it's like, and for free, I was held in higher regard than the people who paid and are just there to be like, hey, let's connect, because you have to talk to me as a volunteer. I'm the one who has your passes. I'm the one who can tell you where to go. I'm the one who has the run of show. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking to me, and then you're like, oh, well, we're having a conversation, and it's very easy for me to allude to the fact that, like, hey, I'm also, I'm in law school, or this is what I'm aspiring to, or, I'm a newly barred attorney, and so I'm doing this, that, and the third. And then they're like, oh, okay, and they remember you because, wow, you're credentialed as a volunteer. You know what I'm saying? So that was my cheat code.
No, that's real. That's similar to the way I came in. because I had zero ties, but I was at everything that was music related, whether it was an open mic,
Whatever.
whether it was something, or I see the same person throwing an open mic every month, I'm there every time. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I came in the game.
Okay. But see, even with that, it's like you would go, but you weren't working it.
Right.
I was working it. So like my conversations are even at a higher level because now I have something to talk to you about. And now you have to pay attention.
And it's like for you, it was like coming through you was actually mandatory.
Exactly.
Like
you have to talk to me and acknowledge me.
Right.
So now that I have your attention, I'm gonna give you my spiel. And then I also noticed that the other volunteers, like over the years, are people who are putting their own shows together now. They're managers for major artists. They're moving and shaking in the industry because they, like me, were just trying to figure out how to get their foot in the door. Right. So these are people who are just as hungry as I am. And now not only am I networking up, but I'm also networking across to the people who are at the same level as me as far as reach or like who in the industry. And so then it became like 3 years later, I'm still in contact with some of the people who I volunteered with. Right. Years ago or whatever. Like at this point, it's like 10 years. Jesus. But it's like I'm still cool with these people, and like I said, relationships. I have a relationship. I built a relationship with these people over these years. So now they're hitting me like, oh yeah, can you rep my artist that I'm working with? Or yeah, can you help me with these, venue contracts or whatever? Because, they came up with me. Right.
How important is location as a lawyer though? Because I know as a producer, location is everything. Yeah. As a producer, location is everything. Artists, as the creatives,
it's the same.
As always. So as a lawyer,
it's the same. It's the same because relationships and access to things that are actually, going on.
Got you.
You have to be in certain places in order for that access to occur. In order for you to be in the rooms that you need to be in to make something shake.
Got you.
So yeah, that is important. You need to find your way to one of the states, whether it's New York, Atlanta. I don't care. I'm putting Atlanta in there.
No, put it. You got to put Atlanta. You can't.
New York, Nashville. You know what I'm saying? You gotta
sure.
You gotta be there.
Got you. No, that makes sense. So look. So say you have. I don't know how many like clients or whatever like that you have like on your roster and stuff like that. I don't know if it's called a roster in that term, but anyway. But on your roster. What moves a person up as priority on your list? And how does a lawyer take priority of a client? Because I've seen some lawyers walk clients around. I done seen, you just see different aspects. I've seen lawyers just be by themselves, and maybe they just have a whole list of lawyers. You know what I'm saying? You never know. Like, yeah, how do you decide what?
Relationship. It's my relationship with that client. And money, of course.
Right.
Did you pay me already or not? Because if you've already paid me, of course I'm going to prioritize what I need to do for you.
Right.
If I'm already been paid.
Right.
You're going to be prioritized over somebody who hasn't paid me yet.
Right.
But also that, the relationship. Are you a new client? Are you a client who's consistently paid me for years? Right. Like where are you on the totem pole? And also, where are you in your career? Is this something that I know that I don't have to prioritize specifically because it's going to take a certain amount of time to do whatever it is I'm doing? Because you already know the hurry up and wait situations that we be in.
Sure.
They'll be like, we're releasing and we're dropping and oh my God. And it's just like, okay. And then we get you everything you need. And then we got to wait 30 days, 90 days, 120 days to get paid. You know what I'm saying? So it depends on what's going on. On a case-by-case basis, but also the other layer is my relationship with that person. Right.
Okay. No, that makes sense. You can't be mad at that. If a person is bringing in $100,000, need this deal negotiated and all the other stuff, obviously they're going to be above.
And I charge priority fees. So it's like, I need this done today. Okay, well, you got today money? Then it could get done.
Right. That makes sense. I've never heard of priority fee, but clearly I ain't had to pay that yet.
Because it's like there's like a.
But it makes sense though. Like, if you need me to drop everything that I'm doing right now to go ahead and do this
for you, okay, bet.
All right, no, that makes sense. Same thing as a producer, like a rush fee or something.
Yep,
you know
exactly.
What I mean? So no, I definitely get that. So I want to get into like the artists
Oh, Lord.
right? The artist bag, but the behind the scenes, you know, from your end, right?
Right. Okay.
How many times have you dealt with an artist that gets this feature, this big feature or whatever, and then wants to release this song, and now it's in your hands. So clearly, I know about like the side
Not just
artist,
in my hands.
but side artist agreement and stuff like that.
It's
or
not just in
whatever.
my hands. So we have to request. So most of the time, you know, it's not just the artist who can approve something.
Right.
Because, you know, their label is involved and they gave up the right to approve certain things alone by themselves.
Right.
One of those things is what other songs outside of the songs that they deliver to their label can be released.
Right.
Right.
As the feature, you talking about the feature artist, whatever songs they gave, or you talking about?
I'm talking about the person, the artist who
your
is
client.
the feature.
Oh, the artist that is the feature, gotcha.
Right. Their label gets to say whether this song can be released or not.
Right.
The feature artist gave up that right in their agreement with the label to do that. Now, of course, that, among other things, can be negotiated. You can negotiate for mutual approval or whatever, but most of the time, the label has to approve the artist feature. So, to get that approval,
Right.
and a lot of the times in the feature agreements, especially mine, I always put in there that the feature artist has to assist us in getting that clearance, so that way it's not so arduous for us to do it alone. Right. The label does have to take the artist's input into consideration, and usually that can sway it. So if we hit somebody and we're like, hey, I've had instances where we went to try to get a feature, and then they tried to charge us some crazy amount, and they told us, you can't get certain priority credit, or you can't you have to release this within a certain amount of time, and we need, this amount of money. As far as like, they usually get between a third and a fourth of the artist royalty Okay. I'm like, do I have to explain? Okay. So so the artist gets paid a percentage of the income on the master, on sales, on distribution of the master, streams and digital downloads and physicals, right? They usually, I want to say generally, like a major label artist that doesn't have too much leverage will usually get somewhere between 15 and 20% of their income, right? So the feature artist fee is usually out of whatever what the label does is the label says anything that we have to pay, any percentages of royalties that we have to pay to people who created this record with you is going to come out of your percentage. So what that means is that the main artist's percentage is reduced by the producer's percentage, and it's reduced by the featured artist percentage. Right. So in the featured artist agreement, they usually negotiate 1/3 or 1/4 of whatever the artist would otherwise receive. So if that's 20, what's a fourth or a third of 20?
A third of 20. Man, don't give me the line.
Yeah, see, look, I'm a lawyer. But it's like 4%, 5%, whatever. 5, 10, 15, 20. Yeah, see, so that's so 5%, for example, would be what the if they get 1/4 of what it is. So they'll want 5% on the master, but sometimes they'll be like, we want, half, or we want, we want half of it, or we want, we want you to pay us a feature fee of, $100K. Sometimes they'll ask ridiculous things. And sometimes I'll go back
to a major artist they asking for $100K, or is that like?
Yeah,
because if they asking,
it'll be like somebody
artist,
big, because essentially their argument is this feature is going to get more eyes, it's going to raise the awareness of this record. Right. Without this feature, nobody's going to pay attention to this. Right. With this feature, somebody's going to pay attention to it, so you got to pay us for that. That's essentially their argument. But that's harder to argue when the artists are on a similar level. Right. It's easier to argue when it's like a Cardi B or like a higher level artist who has crazy attention on them, Right. So I've had instances where I was just like, look, they have a personal relationship. this feature didn't come about by like, oh, I'm gonna pay you for this feature. This feature came about from a collab. They just happened to be in the studio together. Like, stop trying to play us, you know? And then sometimes I'll have to negotiate like that, and then I can get them the feature. But it's on a case by case basis, and it depends on the relationship between the feature artist and the main artist, if they even have a relationship, you know, or the manager and their relationship with that artist or that label, you know. So that's what it usually depends on.
Sometimes there's girls, probably dudes too, I don't know, but they do things for features.
Oh
right?
My God, some strange for some change.
Yeah, you know, sometimes.
Guys be doing that too.
So maybe that's what I'm saying. I don't know. So it's guys or whatever. So with that being said and some like from the stories I hear, like they don't clear the feature or something like that.
That's messed up.
So like what as a lawyer, what do you do in that case? Or it's just like
they just took an L.
It's just impossible.
They just took an L. There's nothing when you do something that is not legally acceptable in exchange for something, there's nothing we can do about that. You know, you just gotta hope that they're gonna be a person of their word and clear it for you. But if they don't,
right. Damn. Sad story.
Don't do that. That's what I'm gonna say. Do not. You know, have some morals about yourself.
All right. Right. No, I mean, it makes sense. You know, I just had to
or just take the L quietly. Something.
You know, because you know, immediately they want to go to social media.
You're just going to make yourself look real crazy. No. You have no idea how many times I have clients and I'm just like, because I am unfortunately and ashamedly addicted to Instagram. So I follow all of my clients for the most part.
Right.
You know, I'm very active on there. I hit them. You already know. I go to their shows. I'm just that. I'm invested. That's just who I am as a person. So there are times. Sometimes I'm like scrolling. I'm like, what the fuck? Take this down. You know, like what do you like? Deal with your issues in private, bro. Just take this down. It doesn't even need to do all this.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. If you're completely wronged and you have a legal leg to stand on, or somebody's treating you, you know, ridiculously unfair, then I understand you taking that to social media because you might shame that person into doing the right thing.
Right.
But when it's situations like that, it's like take the L in silence.
Man, that's funny as hell.
Just know that that doesn't work with that person. Take the L in silence. Don't do it to yourself.
Yeah, no, I heard too many stories. I'm like, oh man, damn, it's just sad because I know like people with like a whole list of features that's like just in their catalog.
And then sometimes it's not in the artist's power to even do it. Because like I said, the label has to do it. And so like I said, the label may or may not take that artist's opinion, relationship or whatever into consideration. Now, of course, it will. Most of them do because why would you want to make the artist that angry? This is the artist on your label, you know what I'm saying? And you're like, I'll honor certain things, you know, to accommodate you. But also on the flip side, it's like they have the last say. So if they don't want to be affiliated, they don't want to be affiliated.
Right. No. Makes sense. So let's talk about the deals. The deal structure. So what's the ideal deal structure as an independent artist going into a major label?
A major? Okay, you're being specific about a major?
Yeah, we could be specific about a major and then we could do independent.
Okay.
Because, like going into like...
Because it depends. Okay.
Atlantic, then going to...
So if we want to just talk about ideal across the board, I have a page, Guard Your Gifts, my Guard Your Gifts page, and I laid out most ideal to least ideal.
Is it Guard Your Gifts?
Guard Your Gifts. It's
Guard
on
Your
Instagram.
Gifts.
Yeah, it's an Instagram page.
That's dope.
It's also just my moniker. It's my brand, essentially.
Okay.
But I also created a page because, you know, there's just so much BS on the internet. And there are so many gurus that are like, oh, yeah, you do this and do that. And a lot of it is crap.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do, and it's like, you know, my baby, and when I have time to do it, because I almost never have time to do it, but I've been trying to make more time to just essentially put the information that is correct
right
on I put it in that are on that page rather. So I already have a post that's like the most ideal to least ideal or something like that on there, and it lays out almost all the different types.
Gotcha.
And which one I think is the best and which one I think isn't. But at the end of the day, to be real about it and to be even more detailed about it is it depends on your leverage, what leverage you have. Do you already have a fan base? Do you have no fan base? You know, what does your social media stats look like? Unfortunately, they care about that, you know?
Sure.
So all of that
These
determines.
days, it's not even unfortunate. It's just
Sure,
like, I get
that's
it.
just what it is at this point. So with that being said, that means that, you know, depending on what your leverage is will depend on what you can ask for.
Right.
You know, so what's ideal for you may not be the same as somebody else because their leverage is different.
Right.
Period. That's just what it is. But as far as objectively, what's most ideal is I am an ownership advocate. So I would advocate for licenses. Typically, that means that you'll be getting less money up front, you know, because they'll be more willing to put money up front for things that they own. So if they get complete, for example, ownership of the masters, they're willing to give you more money. If they get a license to exploit those masters for a period of time, they're more likely willing to give you less money, you know.
Right.
And so it's really what's important to you. Is more money on the front end more important to you, or is ownership important to you?
Right.
You know, because there are other things that we like. If you decide to give up your masters, there's other things that we down the line can negotiate. Maybe 2 to 3 years later, you had like 2 or 3 hits. You know what I'm saying? And now it's time, you know, for them to exercise the option or something in your agreement.
Right.
Now we can renegotiate, or now we can get a reversion, or now we can, you know, do something that'll get you your masters back, or we'll get you your masters back over time or something. You know, you never know. But because after a certain amount of time of being in the contract, you've gained more leverage, you know?
Right.
So it depends on the person.
No, I mean, no, that makes sense. So we in the day and age of the masters conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So negotiating like masters, at what point in your career do you have to be to even entertain that conversation?
You got to have some masters.
No, I'm saying, but like, you know, like it's independent artists that's like, I want to keep my masters. I'm not signing a deal unless I can keep my masters and all this other stuff. So
then you're going to continue to pay your own money to get the awareness.
That's what I'm saying. At what point, by the time you go to a label, at what point do they need to be, if you compare even like an artist or whatever, like what point in your career, like if you want this, then you going to have to be here in order for me to even say, hey, guys, I want to keep the master.
What was you saying to me earlier, that hit record?
Hey, record.
Do you already have a hit? Because
Right.
if you do, woo, your leverage is up here. If you don't already have a hit, then I don't know what to tell you. That's one of the determining factors.
Right.
But really what the determining factor is fan base.
Gotcha.
Do you already have a fan base? Because if you do, then all I'm doing is amplifying it as a label. So I have to negotiate with you on another level. If you have no fan base, then what am I negotiating with you for? Because I am giving you the platform for a fan base that you would not have otherwise had.
Right.
So what am I negotiating other things with you
Now,
for?
fan base, meaning, what is that
A
like?
paying fan base.
Okay,
meaning
so like
people
ticket
are
sales.
ticket sales, but mostly downloads, streams.
Right.
I don't want. It's not views. It's like listen. Like I guess it's views on YouTube, but like
I mean, it's views, period, because you got this is artists who will argue to be like, man, I get 10,000 views on YouTube, or I get 100,000 views on YouTube. I mean,
exactly.
We see, and I hate to say, well, the artist. It was an artist that sold 2,000 records. You see what I'm saying? Like, and have this huge fan base. But if you look at the views, that they're getting views, but
Does it translate into income? No, it doesn't. And the music industry is a business, and they care about their bottom line, period. So what money are you already bringing in? What's your fan base already? So, and the higher it is, or the more you have, the more I'm likely to negotiate with you.
Right.
I'm going to ask you a question.
And I want that too.
As a producer,
Okay.
when you bring in writers to a session, what do you believe that you should cut them in on? I know publishing is a
The
standard,
right.
but like, what else? The answer is nothing. No, I'm just saying.
No,
They don't want to cut y'all in.
No, you know what it is? Sometimes it's depending on the relationship. You know what I mean? That's what I think. Because I got some writers that I deal with often. You know what I'm saying? That we locked in. You know what I'm saying? So by the time like we get a situation, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, definitely probably cut them in on the advance. You know what I mean? But there's also some situations as a producer where the advance be low as hell. And
So
it's
hard
like
to cut people in.
And it's hard to cut people in. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, especially me being in a couple genres as a producer, because some genres pay lower.
Different genres, different rules sometimes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to, like, if you getting, and then it goes into the advance and how many producers is on the record. You know what I mean? It's kind of harder, but for me, I would say the advance, and then it's even been times where if like they don't take the song and I sent the song, you know what I mean, and they just like the beat, I still cut them in because they help sell the record. You know what I mean? So
that's cool. I like that.
Me.
That I appreciate that. The reason why I brought it up is just because I have ever since I've gotten writers as clients. Well, I guess it's a little bit more complicated because a lot of my clients are what we call 100%ers, which means that they write, produce, and perform.
Right.
A lot of the times those are 3 different people or a group of different people doing those 3 things. But I have some clients who do all 3 on their own, you know.
Right.
And so sometimes my producers who are 100%ers, I increase their fee because I'm like, they also wrote, they also did this, and you need to get them extra, or you need to do this because they stood in a place that you would otherwise have to had to pay for, so you need to pay us more. Maybe not everything that you would have paid the other person, but still more than what you're going to pay this person.
Right.
But specifically for my songwriters, I feel like they deserve points. I hate that they're not, that they aren't.
I totally agree with that.
I understand the artist though, because like I explained to you earlier, it all comes out of what the artist gets. So if the artist is getting 20%, and now I got to pay the producer out of it, the writer and the feature off of it. That's a lot, and I get it. But at the end of the day, without the songwriter, there's no song. There are no lyrics.
I agree.
So I've been fighting for songwriters to be paid like producers, in the sense of they get access to the different types of royalties that the producers normally get access to, which includes the master royalty.
Right. So I want to get with that too, because I'm like, a lot of times even with songwriters, like it seems like the argument is always songwriter versus producer. But I feel like labels need to step in and start going to the points and because at the end of the day, like they're getting so much, and a lot of times songwriters aren't asking for nothing crazy, and neither are producers. Like producers are going for 3 points out of 100. You know what I mean? And then
but it's not out of 100. It's out of 20 or 15 because it's out of the artist.
Well, I'm just going out of
out of what the label gets.
and all that stuff, because I was
the other 80%.
Man, because. Yeah, it was a whole nother situation I was gonna get into, but they was taking like 88% of like the artists like stuff or something. Like, it was crazy. Like they was in a TLC deal or something. But
Jesus.
Yeah, but the conversation though, I still think just need to start going towards the label, because I think there's a perception of producers like making like all this like crazy like money and all this other stuff.
That doesn't happen anymore.
No, but I think there's a perception still.
It does.
And the perception comes more so from writers versus producers type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, y'all need to work together.
I agree. No, I totally agree. But I just think the label is just sitting back like, look at these niggas fight.
Unfortunately,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Look at
because
these
we're
niggas.
fighting. Look at what we're fighting over. We're fighting
Right.
over percentages of a percentage. You
Right.
know, so yeah, we're fighting over it. Like, give us more. That's the whole. That's the whole.
And then while the
teaching
label
us.
getting 80%, you know what I'm saying? All these.
But
all
their
this
argument
number.
and
But I get it. They are putting up the money.
they
and
are,
They're doing.
and not even just that. It's really just.
But I think there need to be a songwriter advance too, like all type of stuff, like you know what I'm saying, like
exactly.
But the label I feel like need to.
But you know why it's
understand
not
that.
an advance? It's a fee. It's a fee because they don't get a royalty. It can only be an advance. An advance is an advance on royalties you're otherwise going to receive.
Yeah,
So it's not an advance because they don't get royalties. So it's a fee.
True.
They just get paid and that's it. So
Right.
I want it to look more like an advance. But even with advances, I can tell you about that. Like certain situations, I literally had a conversation with one of my clients today about a song that is like, we know that the label's going to push hard, you know, and he was like, but they're giving me pennies as far as the advance. And I was like, sometimes that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, that's good because you can recoup fast. I can make sure you get master level recoupment and then you're starting to see royalties, you know, ASAP because we know that they're going to put a huge marketing push behind this and it'll probably recoup. Because let's be real, a lot of artists do not recoup.
Facts.
So that's why they push for advances because that might be it, you know?
Right.
But in situations where you know the label's going to put a lot of push behind this, you know it's more likely to recoup, you might want to take a lower advance because you'll be getting more money on the back end.
Right.
And you'll start receiving that royalty faster if there's less to recoup.
Right. No, that makes sense. And that's literally the stuff I've been preaching. You know what I mean? Lower advance. You're able to negotiate way better. Mm-hmm. I feel like the same way with like publishing deals, and that's something we didn't touch on, but it's cool. We gonna come back to that. As soon as I said it, I'm just like, damn, I definitely didn't talk about publishing deals.
Those deals.
You know what I'm saying? But I do want to end off on a story. Well, you telling the story about. Cause you was telling us the story. I don't even know.
Oh my gosh, I do remember. Is this not the
NFT?
The previous Grammy story.
The NFT stuff.
I don't know if I'm even able. Can I talk about this?
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
I mean, all right. You may not got to tell that story, or you could just tell a story.
I wasn't supposed to tell you that. No, I'm just saying.
You can tell a story.
Yeah, no, I could tell that story.
Inspirational to.
I could tell that story.
Okay.
So there was a huge artist. Very huge artist, like Kanye level artist.
Okay.
That my producer had ill feelings towards because they just felt like they never paid them on time and it was always some issues. And he was just randomly going through his hard drive one day and found an unreleased track of his that the artist had performed on.
Right.
There was no NDAs. There was no paperwork on this. So this is what we call an extra contractual track, right? So my producer was like, I want to encapsulate this. I want to encapsulate this track in an NFT video. So the NFT essentially, like when you bought it, what you were getting was access to the video that featured the track, right? So essentially almost like a sync. But not really because it's an NFT. So this is really interesting because all you got access, you didn't get any ownership in the track. You didn't get to use it for whatever purposes. All you got to do was view it. Right? So it was Grammy, the 64th Grammy weekend. We were in Vegas. And while I was going to all of these events and stuff, in between all of these events, I was fighting this major artist's lawyers. And it was like a team of them. It was like his transactional lawyers, his litigation lawyers, and all these people hitting me. But because I knew that my client wanted to do this, I had prepared. So I was just, giving them their little, my feedback and going about my business. But essentially, when there's no contract on a track, right, then the federal copyright law prevails. And what that means is that whatever you created is a joint work between you and that person. And that joint work works very much like real estate. And if you know about tenants in common, it works in that fashion. And what that means is that I own 50% of this thing, but I can use 100% of it. And for whatever use that I use it for, I have to just save the 50% of the money for you. Right? And as long as I save that 50% of the money for you in the profits, you can't tell me no, that I can't use it in that way, because technically I own it 100% with you, but you just own 50% of it. Does that make sense? Because it's a hard concept, but it's essentially you can use 100% of it, but you can only profit 50 your ownership percentage of it.
That makes sense.
So what we did was we had a wallet that had that artist's name on it, and we was going to save 50% of the proceeds for that person. So he couldn't really tell us no, you know? And the labels and the publishers and the lawyers were all confused because they're used to dealing with contractual tracks that the contracts, you know, essentially control. But this was an uncontrolled track.
Right.
So I was like, it doesn't apply. And as long as we do this, we're fine. And they tried to find every reason as to not do that. But at the end of the day,
right.
you know, and the only reason why it didn't work was because they got to the platform. And the platform had another deal with another major organization. So they were scared that the controversy around what we were doing was going to affect the deal that they had with the other platform. So, I mean, with the other brand. So they just, you know, decided to bow out of it. But as far as my client, they couldn't do anything to him.
Look, the smart one over. Listen.
And that's because that whole world is emerging, so a lot of people don't understand it. But me, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I play video games. So like digital content and the treating digital things almost like physical things, I kind of already understand that concept because I play a lot of video games and I've put money into digital assets, you know, and that's just for my game. It's like, you know, sometimes when you're playing a video game and you buy a sword, is that your sword? It is my sword. I bought it, and every time I use this game, it's gonna be there. You know, it's not physical, but it's still my property. And so, understanding that concept is the hardest part of the NFT situation because people are just like, it doesn't exist, or I can find another nefarious way to get to that. To get to that thing, or I can like use a code to unlock that thing and not pay for it. You know what I'm saying? In the same way, so they don't really understand. But yeah.
Look,
there's that.
Hey, look, you genius level for it. I'll tell you that. That's one story I've always been impressed with.
He was like, "What? We were lit too."
Yeah, no, we was. We was. Well, look, I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying, for coming on. Like, no, it's definitely a good time, and this ain't gonna be the last time. So
of course not.
We good.
We'll talk about publishing next time.
No, we're gonna get into publishing. You know what I'm saying? Before I do a deal or something. No.
All right. Okay.
All right, y'all.